Hi everybody, very welcome to yet another live stream here on the Mentour Pilot channel. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. So it's been a very busy week for me. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've done 2 videos and I'm planning to do more videos. At the moment I'm not flying that much, so at the moment I can focus all my energy on the Mentour Aviation app, on the Mentour Pilot channel. I am trying as well, if you haven't noticed it, to go out with a little bit, well, it's kind of a new format on the Instagram TV where I'm going to do a little bit more personal stuff, maybe some more behind the scenes things, or what I do when I travel and things like that, stuff that I wouldn't be putting on my YouTube channel. That's going to end up on Instagram TV. So I'm hoping that you're following me on Instagram as well, because that's where these things are going to end up. Right, I can see that there is quite a few here already, which makes me very happy. The way that this works, guys, is that I will take some questions. Where those questions comes from is up to you. So if you have something that you really want to ask me, well, then use the super chat function. That's that little $sign, which means that you are donating a little bit of money to the channel and what I do, and in return I see your question and I will be answering it. Okay, I'm also going to warn you guys that I am suffering from a bit of a sore throat and stuff, so I don't know how long I'll be able to non-stop speak like I'm doing normally. Normally I do this for about an hour. Well, today I'm probably going to limit that to about half an hour. So let's see. Big fan here, excited to learn more about your fix for the pilot training industry. All right, great guys. So I hope that all of you who are watching this now have signed up to the APC newsletter. If not, I'll make sure that there's a link here in the description of this video later on so that you can sign up. If you have signed up and you haven't received the emails that we've been sending out, well, in that case, you have to make sure that you check your spam folder and your trash folder. All right, look for anything that comes from the Airline Pilot Club, APC. Okay, it's very important. And if you can't find anything there, well, then go in and use another email address and send you up. And why is that important? Yeah, it's important because we are using the email list to send out emails about updates to the Airline Pilot Club. We are working really hard now, me and Andy O'Shea and Aon, the huge insurance conglomerate. We're working to try to settle down with banks, but the way that this is looking is that it's probably going to be different deals for different countries. So we will open up the club anyway, because in the club there will be things like an indicative assessment, something that I have been pushing for long now for you guys, so that you can go in, that you can take this assessment. It's very close to what you can expect for becoming an airline pilot, getting into an actual airline job or into a flight school. But the difference with our assessment from their assessment is that in those assessments you either get yes or no. While in our assessment, we will be giving you feedback. So you will get, after a week or 2, we haven't really, it depends a little bit on how labor intensive the kind of job to grade all of those assessments are. But once you've done it, you're going to get a report back, and that report is going to tell you that A, yeah, you're ready to apply for a flight school. B, you are kind of ready, but you need to work on these specific items, and then we are going to help you, to guide you to how you're going to get better in those specific items. It might be, applied mathematics, might be personality traits, might be, your English language, things like that. Or you might get an answer saying that no, there is significant work needed in several areas, and in that case it might be worth starting to think if this is something for you, or work very hard for kind of an extended period on those indicated areas, and then retake the indicative assessment again. But the key here is that we will help you. We are going to try to do something that people have not done before, which is to give you an accurate assessment about your ability before you start spending any money, which is something that's very important to me. And then when it comes to, like I said, for the actual funding, we're going to get back to you on more details. So like I said, it's going to be depending on the rules, the banking rules in the country that you're from. That is what's going to decide this. So it's a little bit easier in America than it is in the European Union. In the European Union, there are different rules for every single country. But like I said, there will be more info coming up, and the only way that you will know that is if you have signed up to the newsletter. And also, we will not be able to open it up to everyone. for membership, probably. It's likely that we're going to start opening it up for a smaller number to make sure that we can cater for them. And if you want to be part of that smaller number that we can help to start with, well, then you need to pay attention to the newsletter, because that's how you know that we've been launching the service. And the launch of the service is we're looking at end of March, maybe early April. That's where we're standing right now. So it's very, very exciting, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to help as many of you guys as possible, because I know that out there watching right now are some really great talent, some fantastic potential pilots. Stuff, you might be the next chief pilot for whichever airline that you're applying for. And we also know that there's quite a few of you out there who are not able to kind of shake out 100,000 euros, and that's what we're trying to do. Now, I really want to emphasize here, guys, that this is not going to be free money, all right? This is going to be us giving you access to unsecured funding. That means that the interest rates are probably going to be quite high on those loans. So what I will be trying to, what I'll be telling everyone is that if you have access to money, let's say that you have parents that can put up collateral for part of the money, or you have money saved away, well, then use that. All right, make sure that you're staying, as low debt as possible in order for you to have as much flexibility as possible. But we are trying to do something that has never happened before, which is to give access to money even to people who traditionally could not do it. Okay, that's our aim. But get the right people into the right schools and then into the right seats. Good. So I see that there's a few super chat questions that have been popping up, so I'll be starting to work on them. Gadgetman36, thank you for your support. What's the number one problem in aviation today? Well, if I knew what the number one problem was, I would do everything I could to eradicate it. They're always, like, the aviation industry is extremely complex. I would say that one of the biggest ones are probably pilots over reliance on automatics. So now I'm talking from a safety point of view now, so that we've been taught to use the automatic to such an extent that sometimes you forget that you're going to have to hand fly the aircraft sometimes. But this is something that we are addressing, as in the training part of airlines knows about this, and we are addressing it by introducing more and more hand flying during recurrent training in the simulator, more and more raw data approaches, hand flying in during extreme crosswinds, both during takeoff and landing, things like that. So, but the over-reliance on automatics is probably one of the biggest. From an industry point of view, what's going to be a problem is access to good pilots, access to talented pilots, because we are kind of reaching the end of the barrel for people who are both talented and rich. Okay, and this is obviously where the APC is coming in. This is what we're trying to do something about. I'm going to see here at mail as well, because I'm getting messages through the Mentour Aviation app to see what people are saying. Cool. Right, so I hope that makes sense. I can come up with many more problems as well, but those would probably be the biggest ones. Karsten Gill, great to see you here, Karsten. It's a while since I saw you. What is the crosswind limit for the 77NG, and how do you calculate it? Because there must be a difference in wind is blowing directly from the side or only from a 25 to 30 degree angle. Yeah, so generally speaking, it's a little bit depending on where our center of gravity is, believe it or not, especially for takeoff. But as a rule, it's about 33 knots on a dry runway. 33 to 35, different airlines have slightly different limits, but about say 33 to be on the safe side, and then that goes down to somewhere around 25 knots when it's wet. Okay, the way that we calculate it is just like you would any time that you have an angle, like you need to use trigonometry. So we would just, we know what the runway direction is, we know what the direction of the wind is, we see if it's off a 30 degree angle, if it's off a 60 degree angle. We have tools, our iPads are fantastic with that, so we punch in what the wind is and we'll get back what the exact crosswind component is, because it is the straight crosswind component that we're interested in. You can have 55 knots, if that's just 10 degrees off the side, that's going to be fine to land in anyway. It's going to be gusty, it's going to be bumpy, but it's not going to be a problem from a maximum crosswind point of view. But of course, if those 50 knots starts coming up to 30 degrees angle, then we're starting to have an issue. And 40 degrees, 50 degrees, then we're not going to be able to land. So that's how we do it. Trigonometry. This is why I keep telling you guys that you need to be up to date with your mathematical skills and at least your understanding about it before you go for your training. Mangaliso, thank you very much. Now, for some reason, your question did not come through, so I don't know if you just wanted to support the channel, but if not, if you go into the Mentour Aviation app later on, which every one of you should have downloaded by now, it's completely free, and you have links down here in the description of the video. You go in there, go to settings, and in settings there is a submit feedback feature. If you just write super chat, when you press that one, then and ask my question, then I'll send you an answer to that later on. G.A. Bristol, hello. I recently watched the Air Force One movie and I got wondering about something. What's the policy when someone enters the cockpit making demands? Don't answer here. I'd prefer you make a video. Alright, so J.A. Bristol, first of all, thank you very much for your generous contribution to the channel. It's very much appreciated. And this is a little bit awkward because when it comes to safety and security questions, as in how do pilots respond to this type of threat, that type of threat, what if they breach the flight deck, I cannot do that. Like, I cannot go out and explain those things. And the reasons behind that is because the less a potential hijacker knows about what our security protocol and what our safety protocol is, the better it is. So there are a few things that I just cannot do videos about, and hijacking procedures, things like that are one of them. It's the same as I can't go in and discuss the ins and outs of the cockpit door, for example, because it would potentially be a safety issue, a security threat. So I can explain anything you want with regards to, you know, how does the aircraft work, what's the mechanics, what's the aerodynamics, what are the rules behind it, how does a jet engine work, anything like that is perfectly open to explain. But when it comes into specific safety protocols, I cannot go into that, and I hope you understand why. So, Proud Pirate, what is the future of VOR since GPS avionics have a very high accuracy? There's always a role for the VOR. VOR is a type of navaid that we're using. It's a land-based navaid, basically something that sends out radio signals to which we can navigate to great accuracy. And as a standby solution, VOR will always serve a role. So if GPS, for example, if the Americans decided that it's war, we want to turn off the GPS, they could. And then we couldn't navigate on that. Now, of course, we also have IRSs on board, which are laser gyros that are inside of the aircraft, which we can use for navigation. But for shooting approaches, they are not accurate enough. And in that case, the ILS or the VOR or even the NDB can be used to a great extent. So the NDBs are probably going to disappear more and more because they're so unprecise. Like, it's to fly an NDB approach today is literally Stone Age. We do it. We do NDB approaches still in the 737, but we fly it basically on GPS then. And we have the NDB needle up as the primary navigation, but we're basically just using the NDB needle to make sure that GPS is doing what it's supposed to. If we were to fly only on the NDB, anyone who's done their instrument rating here knows that even if you're kind of bang on your QD mic for your approach and you're sitting there, it's like runway heading is 190 degrees, I'm on the 190 degrees, and you come through clouds and you're like, there, the runway's over there. And you turn. It's so unprecise. So NDB, I think, is probably going to be on the way out. The VORs are going to stay along for a lot longer. And I don't think that we will ever find ourselves in a world where it's only GPS-based approaches, unless there is a more kind of global GPS network that is not just depending on one country. Great question, though. I love to have these kind of more technical discussions. Mangaliso, you're on fire today. Can you explain what happened to the 737 plane that crashed in Turkey and what miscalculations pilots do in the result of an overrun of the runway? All right. I can go into that a little bit because we have learned a little bit more as it has gone on. Now, I have to say though that when it comes to me talking about ongoing investigations, I'm not really happy with that. But what we can do is we can talk about runway overruns in a more general setting. As in, I'm not going to go in and say exactly what these guys did. What I can say is what the things that can lead to an overrun, and the fact is that these guys did touch down very, very late on the runway, and we can talk about what could potentially have caused that. I'm just going to get something from my throat here. So, pilots by nature are very goal-oriented. As in, if we are on an approach, we tend to want to finish that approach, both from a professional point of view, both because it is the time pressures, and also, if the weather is really, really bad, you just want to get the aircraft down on the runway. But this is why there is 2 pilots on board, all right? Because every airline stipulates what we call a stabilized criteria. It means that on approach, you need to hit certain kind of goalposts, certain gates on the way down. And if you do, the approach is deemed as being stabilized. And that's normally that you're on. If you're flying an ILS, for example, which I believe they did on this occasion, you need to be within 1 dot glide slope and localizer. You need to be within 15 knots of your target speed. You need to have the thrust set at an appropriate value. You shouldn't have any excessive descent rate or, of course, like, climb rate, or like you basically just should be in the slot for a safe landing. And we monitor this, and especially the pilot monitoring's job is to monitor this, because the pilot flying can get very into the nitty-gritty of flying, and you're watching the runway coming up, and maybe it's turbulent, and it's so it's up to the pilot monitoring to monitor to see that the aircraft is in a safe way to land. Because if you're coming in let's say that you're coming in towards the touchdown zone with way too high speed, well, if you do, then there's a higher likelihood that as you get into the flare, when you start the flare, you have so high speed that the aircraft will not touch down, it will just continue to fly, and it will take a long time to kind of bleed that speed off. During that time, since you have a very high speed, you're now eating runway below you, and if you touch down too late, well, then you might not have enough time to decelerate. So when we go in for a landing, we aim to land a beam de poppies. Those lights that shows 2 whites, 2 reds if you're in the slot. It's those thick lines, the 2 thick lines on the markings on the runway. That's where we want to touch down. And then you have some alternating lines both before and after those thick lines, which is the touchdown zone, which is kind of okay to land on. You should still land at the mark, but you could potentially, as long as you land within the touchdown zone, it's kind of okay. But if you miss the touchdown zone, you have to go around, right? Especially on shorter runways, because you don't know, we've done calculations on how much runway we need before we start the approach. So when we do our approach briefing before we start to descend, generally we've gone in, we've checked what is the temperature, what is the wind, what is the current runway conditions, what's the weight of the aircraft. We put all of those things together, we do a calculation to say that, okay, we need 1,800 meters to land with auto brake 3 set. Good. Right, but that's based on us touching down. It's based on us coming in with VREF plus 5 over the threshold, and then we bleed off those 5 knots as we do our flare, and we touch down exactly where we're supposed to be. All right, when we do that, we see that, okay, this calculation will work. But of course, if we don't touch down where we are supposed to, well, then those calculations are off. Right, you will still need your 1,800 meters, but those 1,800 meters might start from where you touch down halfway down the runway, and you don't have 1,800 meters left. And the aircraft, we can go out of auto braking, we can put max manual braking, we can use max reverses, but the physics will dictate whether or not we can stop. And if it is a lot of tailwind, which these guys had, and if it's a wet runway, which these guys have, and if you touch down halfway down the runway, which these guys apparently did, then there is just nothing that can stop the aircraft. No matter how much you brake, no matter what you do, the aircraft is just going to continue until the energy has been depleted. So that's when someone has to call a go around. Even you can call a go around at any point up until you've selected reverses. Once the reverses are selected, the go around is not available anymore, because it will take so much time for the engines to kind of put the reverses back in, to lock the sleeves in place, and then to add power, so that it's likely that you're not going to be able to take off again. But before that, if you're floating down the runway, you're not touching down, you're going past where you're supposed to touch down, at any point here you can still say, no, this doesn't work, go around, flap 15, set go around thrust, and you can continue your flight. All right, that's perfectly safe, and it's the safest thing to do. But if that doesn't happen, if you end up landing anyway, and you start taking reverses, well, then you're committed to the landing, and unfortunately these things can happen. Also, should be said that there are limits to how much tailwind you can accept. Now, in my airline, we generally never land with more than 10 knots tailwind. There are specific runways which are huge, where for whatever reason it might be very prevalent tailwinds, and they are really long, where we have our performance department has gone in and done calculations and said that on these runways specifically, you're allowed to land with 15 knots tailwind, providing that you've checked your performance. Always providing that you have checked your performance. So in that case, we can take up to 15 knots of tailwind. But under no circumstances can we ever take more than that. And I think on this day, there was tailwind gusts over 20-25 knots. Something like that. So there's many things, and this is always what happens when something bad like this happens, is that there's going to be a lot of different things that comes together. Why they didn't choose to go around, why this happened, why people were actually landing with those kind of tailwinds, I have no idea. But you can be absolutely sure that the investigation will make it more clear exactly what the decision-making model behind here were when they checked through the voice messages from the cockpit voice recorder. They will be able to interview the pilots, I believe, as well. So we will get to the bottom of this and we'll know. But I mean, the fact is, from what I read on Av Herald, for example, that they touched down when it was only about 1,000 meters left of the runway. And if you have like 1,000 meters is what a 737 can land on a dry runway with no tailwind, normal speeds, you could get it to stop at 1,000 meters. But it is very tough. It's very tight. I hope that makes it a little bit clearer. All right. So, Mohammed Sadiq, thank you very much for your support. Why aren't messages to and from ATC done using text message over radio? The messaging protocol can guarantee acknowledgement of messages. It is. Actually, from last week or 2 weeks ago now, it is mandatory with CPDLC, which is data link messaging for all flights that flies above flight level 285 in Europe. So from 2 weeks ago, we started flying with this. We get a cell call, bing, and then we get a text message from our traffic control saying that we should climb, or we should descend, or we should change to the next sector, and things like that. And what that has done is that it has reduced the amount of radio calls significantly, especially at high levels over busiest places like, for example, London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Maastricht, places like this. I think so far, we've been working with it for 2 weeks now, so far it feels like it's a very good thing. We don't use it during descent below flight level 150. We don't do it during climb below flight level 100. And that's because it is still, compared to voice, it's a little bit, you still have to be one pilot down kind of into the FMC, clicking on messages, reading it out. But I love the cell call function, because it means that it's less likely that people will get prolonged loss of communication, for example, that they go out of radio range before they get their new frequency. So I think that it's a good thing. And I think it's going to get better and better. But yes, there is text and messages, not for landing and takeoff though. Bishop 51807. See, I missed that. There we go. Do you have any plans for fan meetups in America, like Oshkosh or Sun and Fun? Yeah, I don't have any plans. I would love to come to Oshkosh, both because it's insanely cool and because I want to do meetups. I'm probably meeting up with Flight Shops soon. And I know he always goes to Oshkosh and Sun and Fly, so maybe, Sun and Fun. So maybe we can come up with something, but I'm not going to promise anything. In any case, I would love to hear from you guys, from the American fans out there. Where should I go? you know, because I know that there's loads of people following the channel in, for example, New York. I see that there's loads of people in New York who have the app. I know that down in Florida there's quite a bit as well. I know Las Vegas as well, and all of those are places that I'd love to go to. So I'm sure that we can arrange something. I would love to meet you. It actually gives me an enormous amount of energy to do these meetups, because I realized, it's only then that I realized how many of you there are. Like, it is incredible when I sit and I upload a video and I watch my analytics and I see that, all right, now 10,000 people have seen it, now 20,000, 30, 50, 100,000 people have seen it. For me, that's just numbers. It becomes like a computer game where you see that it's following, if it's above or below the normal curve and stuff. But I don't realize how many that is until I go on those places. When I go on meetups, like I'm going to do now in Berlin. I hope that you guys have gotten your free tickets for Berlin, by the way. So on the 21st, but especially the 22nd of February, I will be at the Pilot Expo in Berlin, and I've gotten a code that you guys can use, so you can get free entry and come and say hello. So the Pilot Expo obviously is for people who want to become pilots. There's going to be loads of flight schools and people selling pilot equipment and things like that. But I've managed to secure so that you guys can get a free entry anyway, and you can come and you can meet me. And I think Captain Joe is going to be there. I'm not sure if Dutch Pilot Girl is going to be there as well. But it's going to be a few of us anyway. And I would love for you to come by, because like I said, it is so great to meet all of you, to shake your hands, to see what your dreams are and how much or how little the channel has provided information to you. But yes, America is on my to-do list, definitely. SSB, thoughts on Pegasus crashed in Turkey in the video plan. Yeah, we've already kind of covered that. So I don't think I will do a video on it, because it's a recent disaster. If everyone would have been okay, I would have done it. But now there are people who actually died in that, so I'm not going to get into that. Grant, Rennie, just checking in. Have a great night. Well, you too. It's great to have you here, and thank you for your support of the channel. And by the way, guys, if you're sitting here watching, like, and you're thinking, man, I would like to be more involved in the work that Mentour Pilot does, well, then go and become a part of my Patreon crew. You know, it doesn't matter. My Patreon crew does a couple of things. First of all, they provide financial stability to the channel. And what does that mean? Well, that means that my Patreon crew has bound themselves to pay a small amount each month. So that could be $1, it could be $2, it could be $5, $10. Some people are even as much as $50. But what it does is that if I have a down month, so let's say I have to take a month because I need to rent a simulator to create some great content. Well, then I might not be able to produce videos during that month, but my Patreon crew makes sure that I can continue to kind of produce anyway. I don't know if you guys know, but from next month I'll be on unpaid leave from my company for 2 months. And that's part of the reason they kept the base open here. Like, we were allowed to stay at our base, at our homes, but it became a seasonal base. There's almost no one flying to Girona during the winter. So they say, well, if we're going to keep this base open, you need to go on to seasonal contracts, and you have to accept to be not paid for a couple of months. So for anyone out there who's been like, oh man, he's always talking about Patreon stuff, this is why. Because now actually this channel is what's supporting me and my family. Like the work that I do with you guys, and the work the help that I get from my patrons is what's keeping the channel going and keeping my family going to a certain extent. So if you want to be a part of that, the Patreon crew is I'm going to be very, very, very grateful to all of you who are supporting the channel. And also, I use my Patreon crew whenever I need feedback. You know, thumbnails, stuff like that. I send it out to them. Guys, what do you think? And they come with honest feedback. You get to preview my videos. So I send it to them sometimes only a couple of hours early, but hopefully a day or two early. And they get to say what they think. If there's something I shouldn't have said, for example, I can edit that out. So they make a huge contribution to the channel, not only financial, but also work to keep the quality high. And if you want to become a Patreon, it doesn't matter how little. If you want to do $1 a month, that's perfectly fine. But if you get to the $10 level, then I also give you a premium membership in the Mentour Aviation app, and some other perks as well. For example, you can schedule a Skype call if you have something you want to talk about, maybe your training or whatever. So go and check out Patreon. It's greatly appreciated. Still, 77. Why is there shark fins on the 737 NG engines? They had some issues when they fitted the 737 NG engines initially with some vibrations that came, they kind of came into a type of self-vibration initially. Those shark fins that are fitted to them, they actually are there to stabilize the engines, so that you don't get those kind of vibrations. So it takes away, it creates a little bit of drag, but it takes away some of the aerodynamic instability that the engines were creating initially. So that's what they are. Great question. Elmix, thank you. Same for you. If you had a question, go to the app, go to submit feedback, super chat, and tell me what it was. J.A. Bristol, I understand why you can't. Thanks for responding. Well, no, I mean, I would love to, but there are certain things that I just can't talk about. I mean, I got in enough trouble from people on the big, great internet out there for doing that video about how to land an airliner if you're a passenger. People were saying like, well, the terrorists are going to be using this now. And I said, well, if the terrorist wants to get into an empty cockpit and land the aircraft safely, then they're free to do so, because that's the only thing you can learn from that video, nothing else. But I have to be careful with what I transmit. There's no question about that. Most of you guys are here because you love the aviation industry, you love what we do together, the safety of it. But there are people out there with bad intentions as well, and I have to keep that in mind. Numlock 286. Hi, what do you think about the enhanced vision systems? I haven't actually checked them out yet. I know that they exist on the likes of like the Gulfstream 550, 650 and so on, the IR enhanced vision. I love it. I mean, anything that improves the vision, anything that improves the length we have, the time we have to make decisions are great. I mean, I would love to have access to that. I also understand that it's a cost thing, even though those gadgets are very, very cool and we would be able to use them, it's not necessarily so that they increase, for example, the minima, to make sure that we can go down to lower minima. And if we can't, then it's going to be very hard to motivate that cost for an airline, saying that, well, we're not going to actually be able to land more often, but it's nice. It's unfortunately it doesn't work that way, but I would love to have, the more help we can get, the more cool gadgets we can have in the flight deck that actually helps us, the better it is. Geoffrey 524, here's $5. Thank you. Now, having said all of that with the Unpaid, I'm like the channel is doing great. The channel is doing very well, and also like I can save up for 2 months with my job as a pilot. That's not an issue, but it is great to have the financial freedom it means to be able to work with something else. And also, like the more I see that I can have a positive impact, for example through the Airline Pilot Club, which I'm working very hard on now, the more I can see that this is something I can actually make a difference. As a pilot, you fly people, you end up at the same gate when you get back after a day. That's fine, the job is amazing. But if I notice that I can actually make a difference to people's lives, help people to become pilots, get them into this fantastic world which is aviation, well then maybe I'm going to scale down my flying a bit. I still want to fly, but I could do it on half time. I can do it on 25%. That would be great for me. And I could do these kind of videos and meetups and go to flight schools and kind of inspire people and explain to cadets what they can expect and stuff like that. I would love to be able to do that more. And you guys and the people in my Patreon crew are enabling me to do that more and more. So thank you very much to all of you who are watching this for that. So, Noah Berger, have you considered making a server on Discord for this community, and have you ever flown to Miami or Fort Lauderdale? I have talked about a Discord server. I have a Discord server that I haven't activated yet for people who come in through my website. I don't really want to, for the simple reason that I have my Mentour Aviation app, which it's kind of a walled garden that I can control, that I can make sure that there's no nasty stuff coming up, that there's no trolls, that everyone is positive and constructive and helps each other out. That's why I created the app. And I fear that if I connect a Discord server it will just kill the app, as in people will not be using it. And I love the app, and I'm working on new features and stuff all the time. My admins, which are here, Sam, for example, who's doing a great job now checking out the your comments, who does a great job with updating news and things like that. So I haven't done that leap yet. Not sure if I will, because I don't want the two things to kind of cannibalize on each other. Grant Rennie, thank you for the hot dog. JR Bristol, are you hiring graphic designers for your channel? At the moment, no. For the simple reason that I have Dominic, my own graphic designer, who's doing an absolutely fantastic job. Like, did you see that latest thumbnail with the shark that was biting into 737 Max? That's his. That's him at his best. And all of these like graphic. These animations that are coming in now that I'm using more and more, that's him doing it. But I might add to the team. I'm probably going to have Dominic as the kind of head, the leader of the graphic team, and then maybe I'll be able to hire people to work together with him if the workload becomes too high, because he has another job as well. Like, I would love to take this channel to the next level and to do much more animations, graphics, to explain things like engines, aerodynamics, anything that happens really. And for that I need people like you who are professional graphic designers. So do keep in touch, okay? Oleg 250, do you know Swedish group Herreys and their song Summer Party? Can you sing it? I do know Herreys. I will not be singing their songs. You do not want to hear me sing songs. That's not what I'm here. And actually I don't remember that song, the Summer Party song, either. Why would you want me to sing that? Like, you don't want to. It's like asking Mariah Carey to fly an aircraft. Like, you don't want me to sing a Mariah Carey song either. So you know. Henrik, I got less than a year left of my ATPL, and I've started looking at company to work for. Do you have any recommendation? Yeah, whatever company that is safe, that will pay your bills and will take you. It's as easy as that. When you get up from your ATPLs, when you have your license, then by all means have a list of companies that you would like to work for, that you aspire to work for. Do apply for them, but at the end you're going to find that you are going to take whatever job that can keep you flying and pay your bills. And then once you have a bit of hours, a bit of experience, then you can start kind of looking into where you actually want to work for the rest of your career. Maybe like in my case, you think that you're going to be in a company for a little while, but then you realize after a while that, hey, I have a quite sweet life, like I have a good life quality, and you end up staying there, like I have been for 18 years now. But you know, like I said, just go for any airline that will employ people with minimum hours, and there are not too many of them, you'll notice. But best of luck, and keep me posted. This is also what we're going to try to do through the Airline Pilot Club, like the extensive kind of contacts that I to a certain extent have, but especially Andy has. We're using them now to get into contact with the airlines and try to get the people that will be, you know, quality assessed through the Airline Pilot Club, then go through our quality assessed schools that we have checked out and that we guide you to, and can keep very high quality, that then they will have a chance to at least get an interview with an airline afterwards. That's our ambition at the moment. Right people, right schools, into the right seats. APC. So, Proud Pirate, sorry to hear about your unpaid leave. Will your airline make an arrangement with you to teach during your leave? No, I will not. Well, not in my airline. But when you're on unpaid leave, you're on unpaid leave. You can't work in another part of the organization unless they want you to, of course. But the part of the issue here now as well is the fact that the Maxes are not arriving. So there's too many pilots at the moment. That will change as soon as the Maxes start arriving, but until then there's not much training going on or anything like that, so I'm not needed, unfortunately. Magda Rasnoviano, I hope I pronounced that right, thank you very much. What do you think about the discrimination between men and women in the industry? How can a pilot woman cope with the stress when the family is involved? I don't think that there is much discrimination anymore. In fact, I think that airlines are probably turning the other way around. They are wanting women, so women have a better chance of getting a job sometimes than the male counterparts. Because we do need more and more women into the aviation. We need to show that it's possible, because at the moment we're only kind of reaching half of the population. I can see that because when I look at my YouTube statistics, it's 95% male and 5% female, and we need to get the word out to all of those females out there that could be fantastic pilots, that they should be applying, because when the baby boomers start retiring in a few years, so about 2022, and hopefully there's nothing else happening in the political stage that kind of unravels everything, well, then there's going to be a huge need for pilots, and we're going to need all the good pilots that we can muster, and we're going to need both male and female pilots. When it comes to the stress, females can do that, then can handle stress just as good as men can, but the family bit is something that we as an industry have to work on. That means we have to find suitable roles to work during pregnancy, for example, because at the moment a female cannot work from the day that we know that you're pregnant because of the radiation doses. So you will be put on the ground, and if we then could find a way for you maybe to work as a synthetic flight instructor or something like that, that would be great. Some airlines have that, which is good. And then maternity and paternity leave is something we have to work on. Good rostering patterns to kind of fit in with family life. All of this is something that airlines that want to attract pilots going forward are going to have to work on, and they are working on it. Oleg 250, do you like ABBA? I assume you know who they are. Of course I know. Are they still popular in Sweden? Yeah, they are. Like if you go out on a nightclub in Sweden, and I mean this for real, you'll probably hear a few ABBA songs, even, you know, in between Avicii and everything else. So yes, they are still very much popular. Cool, let's see. I think we're running out of super chat questions there. I have one more. I want to, for some reason I can't see it. So I'm gonna try to find it here in the normal chat instead. Hi Mentor, do you think about what do you think about LOT Polish Airlines buying Condor? I think Condor was a good airline, is a good airline, and I think LOT is probably getting good value for the money there. I haven't looked into the kind of nits and bolts and whistles about the deal, so I can't really say anything educated, but I know that they're two good airlines. And I'm happy that Condor doesn't disappear together with the rest of the Thomas Cook group. So I'm happy to hear about that. Good. Now, since I don't have any more super chat questions here at the moment, we can take a little bit of normal questions here. Mentor, from JP Baldoria. Mentor, are the airlines the ones who are responsible for what type of aircraft you are going to fly? If that's so, how can I be a 777 or be a 787 pilot? Yeah, I normally mention this in my live streams. Okay, the only ones who really care about what aircraft they're going to fly are the people who haven't started their training yet. You think when you go into training like this that, oh, I want to be a pilot on this specific aircraft. I want to fly a 777 or a 787. I don't want to fly a pesky 737 or an Airbus 320. You saying that means that you don't understand the business yet, but you will. As soon as you start your training and you've gone through your training and you've paid your 85,000 euros, whatever your training cost, you will start realizing that actually I just want to fly the aircraft because I love flying, and then you will get whatever job that gives, you know, that is given to you or that you can get. And that airline will decide which aircraft you fly, and that will be perfectly good for you. And when it's time for you to start asking for, like to look for a specific airline, then all of a sudden you have already understood that, you know, if you're sitting at the front of a 747 or at the front of a 737 or an Airbus 320 or an Airbus 380, it's just as far to the nose as it is in any other aircraft. And you don't really care, because what's going to be important for you is what kind of roster pattern you have, what kind of pay you get, if you can see your family, things like that. All right. So there are airlines that flies the 777, Emirates, British Airways, for example. You can get into them. You might end up in Singapore, where you can go straight into 777 from flight school. perfectly possible. But I'm telling you right now that what aircraft type that you fly, you're not going to care about. And I can say this with absolute certainty. All right, it will not matter. Okay, as long as you fly for a good airline, which is safe, you have good procedures, you like your colleagues, things like that. Those are the important things. What aircraft type do you happen to fly? It's going to be what your airline dictates, and that's it, basically. Cool. See, there's no super chat question here. Can I fly on your jump seat? No, you cannot. And the reason for that is simple. It's not allowed, right? The only ones that can fly on the jump seat are, certified pilots in the airline. There are airline employees to a certain extent, depending on what the circumstances are, and representatives of the aviation authority that's doing checks on the airline. No one else. Okay. And I'm really, really sorry about that. But this is one of the reasons why I created the Mentour 360 app to start with and the Mentour Aviation app, because I wanted to show you guys what it's like in the cockpit, and I did that with 360 video. I don't know if you have seen how that looks actually, but inside of the Mentour Aviation app, which by the way looks much better now, I've upgraded it several times since I did this video. But anyway, you can get a collection there. So the app is completely free to download. You can download that, get the news function, the chat function, the forum, everything for free. But if you want to, you can also buy training collections. And this is something I've done together with colleagues in the cockpit. I filmed it in 360, which means that if you have a smartphone like this, you'll be able to look around in the cockpit. You can use your fingers to scroll to see different things in the cockpit. Or you can move the phone around. You can watch it like that. But it's great because it means that you can see, for example, how I set up the 737 from dark until it's ready to taxi, or any failures after takeoff. And you can watch me one time, and you can watch my first officer the other time, and you can see how we interact, right? The main thing here is that it will feel kind of like you're sitting on the jump seat together with me. And if you have one of those Google Cardboard headsets, well, in that case, it will feel, if you put them on, there's a VR menu inside of the app as well, but it will feel just like you're sitting on the jump seat with me as I'm doing these things. So I hope that if you have a chance and you get the app and you want to see how this is done, like a wind shear escape maneuver, for example, well, in that case, get one of the training collections, and you can get the whole thing, 2 hours of instruction with me for $20. Right, $20 is that the all-in-one package, and that will give you everything that I've done in 360 and everything that I probably will do in 360, to be honest. Max Mountain World, thank you very much for your support. I don't know if you had a question. Then, if you did, then contact me afterwards into the app, and I will explain it to you. Mentour TV from Joe Perkins. Did you enjoy seeing the live stream today from Big Jet TV? I didn't watch much of it, to be honest. I watched a little bit. Sundays are family days. I can't really sit and watch aircraft doing landings on family day. I did watch a bit, and I'm going to try to talk to them to see if we can do some collaboration in the app, because it was kind of cool to be able to stream straight into the app, so that my users they got a push. They can just go in, use the app, see the live stream, and then they can go in and chat about it in the chat stuff. So that was very cool, and I think that they do a good job with it. How did you afford training from Alex Bergman? Well, I was one of the lucky few who were actually sponsored by the Swedish state. So in Sweden and a few other countries, France, for example, I think Norway and Denmark, there are actually government-sponsored pilot programs that you can get into. They're very few. We were only 20 people in the country that could get into that. But since I got into it, they paid for all of my licenses. I had to pay for my accommodation and all of that, but they paid for the training, which I am eternally grateful for. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sitting here trying to help myself, because I realize how fortunate I was, and I want to give back to the aviation community, which I'm hoping that I'm doing through this. Do pilots need visa to go to other country? No, through the airline you get kind of an airline-specific visa, so you don't need to apply for a visa for entry into every country that you fly to. If you are going to stay there, then yes, you need a visa just like everyone else. Mongaliso, do you need a special type rating if you switch from Boeing to Airbus? And what's the similarities and differences between the two? Yeah, you do need a type rating. You sometimes need a type rating even if you are switching between Boeing and Boeing. So for example, if I need to go and do a 777 fly a 777, I need a new type rating for that. But if I'm switching from Boeing to Airbus, definitely. And obviously there are loads and loads of differences. The whole philosophy is different between Boeing and Airbus. Boeing says that the pilot should have the final word, no matter what happens. And Airbus has kind of limitations that the aircraft can come in and say, you're doing something stupid, and stop you. So if you're overbanked, for example, under certain parameters, it will stop you. You won't be able to pitch up as much as you like, even if you try. If you're in the normal kind of law. So there are loads and loads of differences. The autopilot looks different. Everything looks different. I actually think that I would have problems if they threw me into an Airbus cockpit without any kind of training and told me to try to land the aircraft. I think I would probably get it down, but it wouldn't be pretty. That, I know, is something that I know I could make a video about, which I'm a little bit afraid of making a fool of myself. Can you wear glasses? Yeah, actually I wear glasses. So this is what I look. If you see me on a day-to-day basis, this is me, right? I have a little bit. My left eye is a little bit weaker. That's something that came with age. I had perfect 20/20 vision when I started flying, but after 30, my left eye started to kind of deteriorate a little bit. So I'm wearing glasses, and it's perfectly okay. And within certain limits, you can check this with your local AME as well, aeromedical examiner. You can have, as long as you can correct the vision with glasses, it's perfectly okay, right? So yeah, you can have glasses, and damn, it's nice to have them on actually, because I'm starting to get a headache. Cool. Joshua Engering. Hi Petter, I'm currently finishing my PPL. Do you think it's better to get a CPL and build hours teaching in general aviation for a year, or go straight for my ATPL, 29, and funding license myself? Very hard to say. There's a little bit of a slump right now in the business, which I think will pick up again in about a year. You could use that slump in order to like you said, get a CPL, build hours. Now, I always suggest that if you are going for a CPL and you're going to do the theory for the CPL, do the ATPL theory anyway. Like, you do not leave that. You are going to need airlines like Ryanair, for example, and EasyJet. They will not hire you unless you have frozen ATPL done. So don't just do CPL. Do the ATPL theory and do CPL. And then consider teaching for a while. Take a year, get some more hours, get a little bit more perspective on things. Now you're 29, which means that you have plenty of time still. But also be aware, and this is where, like, there is also something to having all of your licenses done so that you could grab on to a potential job if it presents itself. So if you have the possibility, the money and stuff to do that, then consider having everything done and then work as a flight instructor for a while when you have everything available to you, because then you can keep sending out applications, and maybe you find a job there within that year, and then that's fine. So it's hard, like, it's very hard for me to tell you what to do without knowing exactly what the circumstances are. Kuya G68. Regarding the Air Canada Madrid incident, how can tire pieces from the main gear get ingested into the engines? Yeah, it's fairly easy actually. If it explodes, the pressure inside of the gear or the tire is very, very high, right? And if it's exploding just after departure, for example, it's still spinning, and it can spin. It can have so much energy that it's actually being shot out in front of the engine and then getting sucked straight in. So even though the main gear is behind the engine, the fact that it's spinning at high speed and it has that much pressure can easily get pieces to fly up in front of the engine. It has happened several times before where it's actually damaged flaps and slats and engine parts. And on some occasions, like when I was an airport firefighter, if we had a fire around the wheels, we were not allowed to get close to the wheel in any way, shape or form, because if one of those tires would explode from the heat, they can shoot pieces for kilometers. As in, it is an incredible force that is released when those things explode. So it's not weird actually when you think about it. Would you want to fly a luxury Zeppelin? Not as a pilot. I would love to sit as a passenger in a luxury Zeppelin, but I don't really have any wishes to fly it as a pilot. Great question though. I haven't actually thought about that. So how about a collaboration between Blanco Lirio, Captain Joe and Mentor? Blanco Lirio, sure. He's been doing shout-outs for me on his channel. I've done some shout-outs for him. He's a great guy, very down-to-earth, very factually correct and stuff. Captain Joe, I don't think so, for the simple reason that I did try to contact him a few years ago. We were talking about doing a collaboration, and then for whatever reason I haven't heard anything since. He doesn't respond, so I don't think so. I will see him though, maybe. We'll see him in February in Berlin, because I think he's going to be there with his company as well. So never say never, I think that we have a very similar type of audience, but I wouldn't hold my breath, if I put it that way. Why didn't Boeing take out the the 737 Max, 737 Max? Why they didn't take it out? They've invested billions into that, and they're not going to kill off that program. They might shut it down quicker than they thought, but it's going to fly. Let's see. I'll just make sure that I've answered all of the super chat questions, because guys, my voice is unfortunately giving up now. So I'm just gonna have a look to make sure that I have answered everything here. I think so. J.A. Bristol is going to get the last super chat question. So please, guys, don't send any more super chat questions now, because my voice is running completely out. And I also have to go to bed because I'm on early standby tomorrow. So if they call me, I need to be nice and fresh and hopefully rid of this cold of mine. What airline do you fly for? It's something that I never talk about on social media, which you should know by now. And yeah, I think that is actually all the super chat questions. So I'm really happy as well that I've managed to talk a little bit with you, not only doing super chat questions. Let's see now. Let's see if there is anyone inside of the Mentour Aviation chat that want to say something. Yeah, like you can see, the app now looks much better. Like there is loads of stuff that you can watch in here if you're interested in it. But the chat, let's see, there, is quite active. And by the way, guys, if you've downloaded the app, you need to go to settings and you need to fill in your profile picture and some information about yourself so that we can see what your CV looks like, right? It's kind of a prerequisite. It's much nicer to talk to people in the chat when you can see how they look like, or at least a picture of an aircraft if you don't want to show yourself. Did Captain Joe steal Wendover's video? I don't know. He took it down. I think that it was an honest mistake, that it became very, very similar to that Wendover video. But he took it down, which is the right thing to do. So that's it. Cool, guys, that's it. I'm going to finish it off because I actually have kept up for a full hour, which I didn't think that I would be able to. Now, if you just want to kind of chill out, hang out, then get over to the Mentour Aviation app and into the chat. I normally sit there for a few minutes after the live stream to kind of answer some questions from the chat members. And like I said, if you do want 2 hours of 360 instruction with me, then go and get one of the collections. You can get one of the smaller collections to try it out if you want. But once again, if you want to get a premium membership, you can either subscribe to that. That's only $5 per month in the app, or you can become a $10 per month Patreon. In that case, you just send me a message in Patreon, and I will add you to the premium absolutely for free. So have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, guys, and yeah, maybe I'll see you next weekend. Bye bye.